We're here today with Michael Ross. Mike, thanks for joining me so much. Um, Obviously, you have what I'd say is a polarizing social media experience for some. I think that's fair to say. And I want to ask some about that. But before we get into that, I just want to know a little bit more about who you are, what's your background. So, can you describe some of your background for us?
Yeah, sure. I'm from Connecticut. I grew up wrestling at a really young age, 6 years old. I started wrestling, uh, and I never stopped. I fell in love with the sport. I wrestled all year round. Um, Pretty successful high school career. Moved on to college. Went to Wartburg College in Iowa for 2 years. Uh, Pretty successful there. Had some injuries. Ended up transferring to Johnson and Wales University in Providence, Rhode Island. Was successful there. Um, Ended up having a catastrophic injury towards the end of my career, tore my ACL, and I was an idiot, and I decided to wrestle with it at the NCAA's because I was the one seed. I was like, I'm going to win it this year. So, I'm sure plenty of other athletes have had the same experience. When you work your whole life for something, you're not just going to throw it away because of injury. So I decided to wrestle, and in first 5 seconds of the first round, it shot a double leg, landed the wrong way, completely blew my knee out. Uh, Tore both my meniscus, root tears, cartilage damage, tore my quad. Like it was a mess. So it took some time to recover from that. Uh, Went to the police academy, became a police officer, and I just had my second knee surgery 5 months ago, almost exactly. So in February, uh, because the first one was just unsuccessful. He was doing fine. Then over time, my knee started locking up on me again, and ended up having a bucket handle tear in my meniscus. So had my second surgery. I was hoping to compete again. I really wanted to fight MMA, and that just never happened. I trained MMA for about 4 years. I was traveling across New England and training with the best guys, and I was ready to fight, but I decided to wrestle another year, uh, and it just didn't work out for me. And I still have that dream, but I don't know if it's the smartest decision ever. I mean, unless you want to be the best. I mean, I understand this from my wrestling experience. You kind of have to put everything else aside, and this has to be my main priority. And I don't think I'm willing to do that because of my knee. I love wrestling, and I'm trying to still love it from afar and stay involved as much as I can. I love to teach, and I started probably teaching wrestling in high school, but I always question the methodology of things and why we do the things we do. And I don't think people do enough of that. I don't think we question authority enough, for lack of a better term. But I, the phrase, this is the way it's always been done. The best guys are doing it is how, we've done it for years and we're successful. It just didn't really satisfy me. It didn't scratch the itch. It didn't really make any sense. I still didn't understand the methodology as to why they're doing what they're doing. Like the rote repetition drills, or from my experience, when I wrestled for Wartburg College, it was all live, man. Like that's all they did was wrestle live, and it was like no, we didn't even drill. We didn't even do any situational. We didn't do any. It was just we would go in the room and it was like we would talk and then we would scrap, and that was it. And it sucks. Like that wasn't. I mean, I definitely improved wrestling with tougher guys, but the risk of injury is high. The um, it drains you mentally. Uh, it was bad, and I ended up getting rhabdomyolysis, and I was pissing brown because I was training too hard. We would have 3 a days, and the strength and conditioning measures just didn't sit right with me either. It's like, why are we doing sprints on a Friday when we're competing on a Sunday or a Saturday? It's like this doesn't make any sense. I don't feel good. There's no way I'm gassing out in matches, but there's no way I'm out of shape because of the training that we're doing. So I always questioned those things, and it started with strength and conditioning. That's where I never questioned the skill acquisition. I started with the strength and conditioning. Why are we doing so much live? I don't feel like I'm benefiting from this. This is hurting me more than it's helping me. And nobody can answer my questions. It was always just, you're out of shape. You're not working hard enough. This is the way we've always been doing it. We're in Wartburg. We're 13-time national champs, man. 14-time national champs, team champions, best D3 team in the country. How are you going to tell me that what we're doing is wrong? You know, so it's like, I mean, I can't. Um, so and then the last year and a half is when I stumbled upon ecological dynamics, the constraints-led approach, through friends of mine who are much smarter than me, and who train jujitsu. And I mean, here we are. And ever since I started implementing it myself and seeing the benefits of it, I mean, getting dudes who have never wrestled a day in their life, who have been with me for 8 months, and I'm getting guys to come in the room who have been, wrestling for 4 years in high school, varsity wrestlers, not like cream of the crop, freaking all-American national champ, nothing like that, but dudes who are very coordinated and have a very good relationship with the sport and have been doing it for a long time, for 4 to 6 years. And this kid is taking it to them. And it's when I saw that, when I even saw him doing things like highly complex movements without ever drilling them statically, or me showing him like a step by step A, B, C, this is how you do it, and then doing that against a cooperative partner, that's when I was like, there's something to this. I'm going to keep doing it and see where it goes. I still struggle. I still question whether it's black. I know it's not black and white, but I still question, because there's some people who are very dogmatic, and they're like, this is how you have to do it like this. That you can't drill, you can't give specifics, you can't scale practice with percentages. You can't. I'm not there yet. I don't think I'll ever will be. I think we have to be pragmatic as coaches. But I don't know if that is my ignorance on the topic, and I just don't know enough. Um, but I'm pretty all in from what I've seen so far. Um, so yeah, that's a little bit about me. 7 minutes of it.
I mean, it's very interesting because you definitely caught my eye because I've trained martial arts for a little bit, and you always hear the phrase "drillers make killers," "drillers make killers."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So now I kind of see someone not necessarily ascribing to that philosophy, and I'm like, okay, that's interesting, but rather than just push back on it and assume that you're wrong, whatever. I was like, I actually want to understand what you're saying because I do think there's some value in what you're saying, but I wanted to know, like, from when you kind of started ascribing to this philosophy, like, did you get a lot of pushback from people around you, and especially social media seems to have pushed back a bunch on some of the things that you're saying.
Mainly social media, almost 100% social media. I mean, and most of the time it's people who, how do I say this? They're like bots on social media. Like, they don't have a profile picture. They follow 1,000 people and they have 0 followers. People like that. I'll occasionally get known wrestlers commenting and disagreeing with me, which is fine. Like, I like the discourse, and I'm not claiming to have all the answers. I mean, even in the constraints-led approach, I'm still a white belt, maybe with a stripe or two, but it's like I'm not gonna fall into some Dunning Kruger and act like I'm an expert on this when there's so much that I still don't know. But yeah, I mean, people on social media, they're just, it seems that they're just determined to disagree, and they're not willing to try to have an understanding about what I'm talking about. And they'll create these imaginary versions of the constraints-led approach. They don't really know what it is or how to apply it. So most people assume, in respect to them, some of my stuff is clickbaity and rage bait, and there's a purpose for that because it's social media, dude. Um, but if you look at my page, I break these things down. If you look at my stories, I break these things down. Um, but people will see this and they just automatically assume that coaches who prescribe to a more representative framework don't show anything. We just throw people in a room and we just say, go wrestle. We don't explain anything. We don't show anything. We don't give cues. We don't give details. We don't do any, and that's just not true. That's not true at all. That's not how the constraints-led approach operates. People just, again, create their own version of it. But it's just, I don't know. When people watch videos of me, or people who are way well versed in the topic, speak about these things and automatically fall back, um, on their ideas and they get defensive about it and they start using ad hominems in the comments and they start attacking you. It's like doing that instead of saying that is a really interesting perspective. Let me look into that more, or trying to have like some kind of civil discourse with you. It's rarely like that. And you know, the people who argue with me on social media or who have that kind of response again are usually people not really worth engaging with. And then the people who are actually interested and have that mindset when they watch those videos of that's very interesting are people like you, are people like Roman Bravo Young, are people like high level wrestlers, Olympians that are reaching out to me saying, I understand what you're saying. I just don't fully understand and I don't know how to apply it. So that's another thing that is motivating for me, because people who I look up to are reaching out to me, and they're resonated with what I'm saying, and it's like there's definitely something to this. There's um, so yeah, I'm definitely getting a lot of pushback, but from the wrong places.
Well, yeah, that's good. And I think if RBY is reaching out to you, that beats a million random social media people pushing back. Um,
Yeah.
but I wanted to ask, like, I think I don't know if there's anyone else out there putting themselves out there so much with this philosophy that you have. I know I have seen comments from now and then, like of wrestlers agreeing with you, but um, for me, I guess you're the face of this kind of movement. What do you see as the next step to this? Do you see like more wrestling rooms and even maybe more jujitsu rooms adopting this approach? Like, what's the next step here?
So I was inspired by first I was inspired by a friend of mine, Alex Sineco, who's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He was coaching for Fighting Arts Academy, Nick Newell's gym in Milford, Connecticut. And he was doing the traditional way of things and showing techniques and all that stuff. But he had the same mindset as me as he questioned the application of things. And he told me that he was watching a podcast of Greg Souders, who is the pioneer of the constraints-led approach within combat sports or within Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He was watching a podcast and he had to pull his car to the side of the road because he was like, who is this guy? And what is this is yes. And ever since he heard that, he started digging more into it as myself, and then he started applying it. And I went to one of his classes one day while he was using it, and I thought it was silly. I was like, "What is this?" Because I myself I still don't have a great understanding of jujitsu, but as a high level wrestler, I can apply it or adapt to it pretty easily. Um, but I still, there's a lot of things that I don't know. So, I was still under the assumption that I had to learn a bunch of moves, and it's just, wrestling and combat sports are a Rolodex of cool freaking moves. So when he was doing this practice, I thought it was silly, but it was fun and it was interactive and there was no bullshit and I was sweating and it reminded me of a wrestling practice. It reminded me of like a wrestling flow with two high level wrestlers flowing together and me problem solving in real time. So I liked that about it, and I asked him like, "What?" After a few practices, like, "What is this?" And then he, briefly explained it to me. I'm just like, "Yeah, yeah, whatever." And I can't remember exactly how or when I dug deeper into this, um, but eventually I ended up reaching out to Greg Souders himself, and I DM'd him, and he responded immediately, and I was like, "Holy crap!" Because he's like famous in this space. It's like having somebody like Greg say, sure, I'll hop on a call with you, and like, I'm expecting, all right, I'm gonna have to pay this guy a bunch of money. And I called him, hour and a half conversation, and he blew my mind, and he completely changed my perspective on how humans move and how people learn, um, and not just with wrestling, and just you know throughout life, how we pick up information and how we learn to do things. And I asked him for his Venmo after. He's like, "Yeah, I'll send it to you." He never sent it to me. So, I called him. I called Cal Jones. I started, watching all the podcasts that I can, trying to read as much literature as I can, as much studies as I can. Also reading the studies in, Schmidt schema theory, which is what most coaches prescribe to. You have to repeat the same motion over and over again, and it encodes into your muscle memory, and in which there is validity with that study. Obviously, it's not something that we just throw away. Um, but then I started applying it. Um, so right now, I'm coaching for an MMA gym, and that's not ultimately where I want to be. This is where I am right now, and I'm very grateful because I'm able to share my ideas and apply them. But I want to work with wrestlers, man. I want to work with straight wrestlers, um, and I want to have success with this. I've had success so far based on what I'm seeing in my room, um, with fighters, but I don't have anybody competing at a high level, competing at all. Really, I have some people who are fighting, but nobody competing on the mats in wrestling to see my work. I see my work in the room in an isolated fashion, and that doesn't satisfy me. I want to see it on the wrestling mats where what I grew up doing. So the next step for me is to get into a wrestling room. Um, I don't know if that's going to be in Connecticut. I don't know if that's going to be in Rhode Island. I don't know, because I don't plan on staying where I'm at right now. I've lived in Connecticut my whole life, so I don't plan on staying here forever, and I don't want to start a program or build a relationship with a high school team if I plan on leaving. So I'm not 100% certain on what that's going to look like, where I'm going to be, but I know that I want to be in a wrestling room, whether that's starting my own program, whether that's joining a high school program. However, whatever I decide to do, I either need to be running it or I need a coach who's not going to be butting heads with me based on this, which is going to be hard to find.
Yeah.
So that's the next step. Do that. Show that there is a method. There is a method to this freaking madness, and show that this shit works. And I know it does. Um, have success with this method, and just continue to share my ideas. Prove a lot of people wrong. I guess.
Well, yeah, it's
But it's gonna
interesting
take it's gonna
because
take time.
yeah, and I'm rooting for you. I want to see this take off and whatnot because, like I said, when I first came across your page, I was kind of skeptical. I was like, as I said, it's been
You should
drilled
be.
into me.
Everybody should be
Yeah,
skeptical.
yeah, that drillers make killers. So yeah, it was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is interesting. But as I listen to you more, I'm like, okay, I see what you mean. Um, Now, I guess the last question I have for you is like, what does a practice look like for you? Is it positionals? Is it like to what extent are you not drilling? And to what extent is it just like not completely just going live 100% all the time?
Well, I'm trying to keep perception and action coupled. Okay. So with the more traditional model, with the Schmidt schema theory, what it is we're taking the movement pattern, we're taking the move out of the environment in which it was originally performed. And that's not necessarily a bad thing in some aspects, in some contexts, in some sports, in some movement patterns based on the constraints. However, in a complex and continuous task like wrestling, when somebody is trying to slam you on your face, if I'm taking that movement out of context and I'm drilling a motor mechanic over and over and over again, as soon as I try to put that back in the environment and I get a little bit of pull, a little bit of resistance, that signal that was there inside of that drill is not going to be there. That movement's not going to be that functional. It is like if I am going to drive somewhere where I'm unfamiliar and somebody shows me a map. I'm not just going to sit there and read the map. I have to go and drive the car. So when we're just watching people demonstrate things and doing them against fully cooperative partner over and over, like this rote repetition drills, like the scarecrow drills and the spin drills. That's just like we're reading the map and we're putting our finger where we want to go on the map. We need to experience the situation and we need to problem solve in those situations to build the skills. A mechanic is relative to the task in which you're performing a mechanic. So if I'm performing a mechanic inside of a static environment, that mechanic is going to be functional in that static environment. If I'm performing a mechanic against somebody who is resisting against me, that mechanic will be more robust. So a practice for me is not we just throw people into a room and say go and have them wrestle live and kill each other. It is very constrained tasks which highlight certain opportunities that they can act upon. So we start small and then we get more complex as the practice goes on. If I'm working with brand new guys, this is an oversimplification, but it can be something. If I want to start practice, I want to get them to engage right away. It can be something as simple as you're going to try and grab your partner and don't let him grab you. Like that's an oversimplification, but these people don't even have the experience of getting grabbed, of being touched. So we need to get them interacting right away. Um, sorry, lost my train of thought.
All good.
So I mean, for like a hand fight, for example, we're taught. Sorry, hold on. My dog just got in the driveway.
All good.
So sorry, my dog is blind. He just
No worries. We'll cut that
he
part
just
out.
walked. Nah, you could. He just walked in the driveway.
Yeah, no worries at all.
So I'm sorry. What was your original question on this? How
But yeah,
how do
you
I?
were saying, yeah, I guess, yeah, just a live look inside practice, and you were talking about, if someone's not familiar with, you know, someone grabbing them and hand fighting and whatnot. That's where you were.
Sorry.
No, no worries.
Did I just mess this up?
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Damn it. We good?
It's still weird. I
It's still weird.
can't see you, but it should be good. It does record separately,
I'm
so
out. I think it's because I'm outside and the Wi-Fi keeps like disconnecting and connecting.
okay. But yeah, we can just go ahead because since I can hear you, that means the app should have you.
I feel like a jerk.
No,
Really
no
messed this
worries at
up. I'm
all.
sorry.
No, you're good. Hey, look, I'm grateful that you're here. I'm learning, so I'm glad. So
Yeah, no,
don't
I'm
worry
just
about it at all.
sorry.
All good. Um, but yeah, I can.
Um, so
Yeah.
all right, you can hear me. We're good.
Yes.
All right. So I mean, the problem is, I think coaches try and solve too many problems at once. With the ABC technique and prescribing specific movement patterns, when we just need to get guys to engage with simple problems. I mean, um, we need to like we can't just have guys go out there and go live, which is why I had a problem with with my college practice over in Iowa, even though we're all very highly coordinated athletes and we understand all the problems that we're trying to solve. But we need to constrain the task so it's not overwhelming. Um, and it could be as simple as starting outside of the elbow and explaining its function, explaining that when we get to a Russian tie, it brings us closer to our partner. We have more control. We have more access to the body. We have more access to the leg, which are more meaningful connections, which brings us closer to one of our goals, which is to take our partner down. So if I'm working with a brand new guy, I might start them in that connection to keep it more simple, to keep it so there's not as much change, so there's not as much variability going on there. And then I will gradually bring it backwards to a hand fight. And then we're trying to get to that position. They understand where they want to go. They understand its function. They understand that getting to that position um, brings us closer to our partner. We have more control, and it leads us to more meaningful connections, like grabbing the body, grabbing the head, grabbing the leg, and then destabilizing our partner. And then we just continue to scale it from there. Then we do all the same things. It's all the same concepts. I mean, then we do the same thing on top and bottom. We do the same thing with pinning. I try and simplify the task instead of trying to have them memorize a bunch of moves, because wrestling is too variable and it's too complex to pull out a bunch of moves. It just doesn't work like that. And I'll give you an example of what I did for practice yesterday. Yesterday was weird because I had 4 different skill levels, 4 different body types. One dude was 230 pounds. I had a girl who was, 130 pounds. So it was a little bit weird, but most of they were all pretty much brand new. So I started with the hand fight, and I explained the purpose of the hand fight. We have 4 points that we can grab. We're trying to grab the wrist, the elbows, the shoulders, the head. Focus on moving your partner around, get them stepping, get them moving backwards, moving forwards, whatever. And then I just describe why we do this. And then it helps us make more meaningful connections. We do this to get under the elbow, outside of the elbow, make connections around our partner or whatever. And then from there, I moved on to, with this hand fight, we're going to try to get outside of the elbow, under, and then just try to make a connection around our partner's legs. That's it. I didn't go any further than that. You're not going to let your partner grab your legs. You're going to try and grab his leg. And what a lot of coaches will do is they'll see messy behavior. Like they'll see the head down, the arm extended, and then they're going to want to jump in right away. But we need that messy behavior. Like it's never going to look pretty, like, regardless. Whether you show them an idealized movement pattern or not, like if I show them the exact perfect single leg with the hand above the knee and my foot has to be here, and then we're doing that statically over and over again, as soon as you put them live, they're not going to stick to that, because you just pulled a snapshot of a high level wrestler and you're trying to install it into a brand new wrestler. It's just not going to work too well. and that doesn't mean that if you're seeing something that if you can't use your knowledge, you can't say, why don't you try and lower your level a little bit more? Why don't you try and take a further step? Whatever. You can use your knowledge. Like, you can give cues. The problem is just the intervention. So it's like, you know, a lot of coaches, their main intervention is these rote repetition drills. These main interventions is that coach has all the answers and coach has the blueprint. And their main intervention is these rote repetition drills and these ABC techniques. You know, I have no problem with small details. Like, I was very good with tilts and cradles in college. I don't know if you're too familiar with like folk style wrestling moves, like cradles and stuff, but I had a really good cradle. And the problem was I always had a hard time getting the fall, so like pinning people with the cradle. I would just get my back points, which was good enough for me. But if we needed bonus points for the team, it would be good to get a pin. So my coach jumped in during practice and he said, when you have this cradle, why don't you try taking your head and squeeze it on his temple, and then you're going to take your back foot and circle him down, circle that shoulder down to the mat, get the fall. I practiced it 1 or 2 times against a cooperative partner, and I was able to hit it live, and it was freaking great. Like, that's a small little detail that made a drastic difference in my performance. The thing is, I already understood and had a good understanding of a cradle, and I was already very good at it. If I try and give a small little detail and have a brand new guy drill it over and over again, that's completely different. Like, that's good. That's saying that I'm building a motor pattern in the brain. When, I've already adapted to that skill. I already have good coordination and attunement with wrestling in that top and bottom position, in that cradle position. And I was just given a cue, and I was given an idea, and I was inspired by it, and I tried it, and it worked really well, and I was able to apply it live right away. That's completely different.
Yeah. So, uh, it is an interesting philosophy, but like the more you lay it out, I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I am a decent folk style fan, I'd say, even though I've never wrestled before. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up. I'm glad you joined me, and I'm glad I was able to, kind of pick your brain on these things. I hope if I'm ever in Connecticut or wherever you're at, that I get to learn from you, because I think it would be really interesting to hop in and just see what you've got going on. But before you go, where can people find you? Where can people learn from you online if they're interested in doing that?
I mean, obviously, my Instagram, it's Mike Ross Wrestling. I just started a school community. However, I post a lot of free content, so you don't have to join. But what my school is how I've structured my practices since I started doing this. So it's more of a progression. It's not just me showing a bunch of games, because if you're just doing plug and play games, the games or the task that you do is completely dependent on your room. So it's like, I can't just. That's why it's not good to just do plug and play games without having a full understanding of what the constraints led approach is and what the backbone of the constraints led approach is, which is the philosophy of the ecological approach. So with my school, it's more of a progression, and I also dig deep in what the constraints-led approach is, because it's not designed for athletes specifically. It's more designed for coaches who want to apply this, and I show how I apply it, and I talk more about what it is. So Mike Ross Wrestling on Instagram, and my school is in the bio. I mean, my advice for coaches who want to use this is try and gain a small understanding of it, and then just try and apply it right away. Try to apply it right away. I mean, you're going to have questions, you're going to struggle, you're going to want to jump in, but just try and stay disciplined. Because we all want our practices to be pretty, man, and aesthetic in all sports, with all these drills, and uh, we you know we just we think that aesthetics, we think that exhaustion in the gym 100% of the time means progress, means adaptation, and that's not necessarily the case. So when you see something ugly, when you see something um, that's not that's a bad habit, for example, don't try and interject right away. Your students the body needs time to organize itself around what it's doing. Like it takes time regardless whether you show an idealized movement, whatever teaching method that you use. It's going to take time. So just understand that.
All right, Mike. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time and the opportunity to learn from you in this forum and to continue learning and seeing what you do. I appreciate it, Mike.
Of course, bro. Anytime you want to hop on a call again, any questions, just reach out. Where are you at right now? Where are you? What state are you in?
I'm in Columbia, South Carolina.
Oh, South Carolina. Oh, gosh, I
Yes, but my
freaking love
interest
South
in
Carolina.
wrestling it came from I spent a couple years covering sports in Pennsylvania, so obviously there it's hard to talk sports without talking wrestling. So
Yeah, I love South Carolina though. Charleston is probably my favorite place.
yeah, I'm planning on fighting in Charleston August 22nd, kickboxing.
Sweet. I
So
plan on going up there pretty soon. But
okay, well maybe we'll run into each other one day.
all right, bro.
All right, you take care. Have a great day.
Thanks, man. You too.
Bye.